Chen Runzhu is my best friend in high school. Because I was developing well, she encouraged the boys at the back table to unbutton my underwear. Later I cried in anger. She advised me, "He likes you to play with you. There's nothing to cry about." Because I didn't cooperate with the school bully to cheat, he bullied me in a small group for half a year. After being found out, he was forced to drop out of school. Chen Runzhu scolded me. "Do you know how bad his family is? Because of your words, he can't even go to school now. You have just been wronged. It's necessary to take revenge on others like this." Later, when I saw her again in college, I lost the takeaway and hung the thief on the confession wall. When she heard about it, she looked like a good old man as usual. If you can't afford to eat, who would be willing to steal takeaway? Why are you so scrupulous? I got up and pressed her head into the foot-washing water, watching her choke her throat and vomit. I was hungry and dizzy before I did it. You are such a nice person, you can't blame me. 1. After tidying up the bed, I was going to go to the express station with my roommate Meng Ruadong. I turned the stairs and saw a familiar figure. Ah, Liao Yanzi. Chen Runzhu's originally mournful face suddenly brightened, and he pulled the fair-skinned, beautiful and slender girl next to him and ran over. "That's great. It's so heavy. Xiao, bring it here too." She naturally stuffed the handle of the suitcase into my hand. Seeing that it was about to fall, I could only grab it. After the gurgling sound of the wheels, Xiao followed her, and also put the suitcase in front of me. "We are in 502. There are people in the room. There are a lot of valuable things in the suitcase. Be careful when you take them." Seeing that she was leaving, I quickly said, "Xiaozhu, I still have to pick up the express. I don't have time to help you carry the suitcase. The two of us are weak. It takes half a life to move to the 5th floor. How can we be like Xiao Yanzi?" Chen Runzhu deliberately pinched the flesh on my waist with his hand, and smiled more happily after I dodged. "It's as strong as a gorilla. The 2 suitcases are easy. Hurry up. I'll treat you to lemonade when I come back. You drank it the most in high school. You always pick up my leftovers and squeeze the juice. I can't wait to eat lemon peel together." She smiled more happily, but Xiao's face suddenly changed. She looked at my hand for a long time, and finally took out a bag of wet wipes from her bag. "Remember to clean the suitcase after a while. I have a cleanliness fetish." After saying that, she pulled Chen Runzhu down and complained with a disgusted face. "Pick up what others don't want to eat. It's so dirty. How can you let such a person carry a suitcase for me? It makes me sick to think of me." "Chen Runzhu." I turned up the volume. The moment she turned around, I threw the wet wipe paper bag back to her feet, and then pushed a suitcase back in front of her. "If you have money, you can spend hundreds of dollars to call people in the group. I have already said that I have something to do. Just put things here. Whoever loses it will find it by themselves. I am not responsible for it." Chen Runzhu's original smile suddenly disappeared, and Xiao was so angry that she immediately came to fan me. "I gave you a face, didn't I? Asking you to help me carry the suitcase is to look up to you. Otherwise a poor guy like you is not even qualified to talk to me." Her hand was so thin that there were only bones left. The slap was like a joke, and I caught her when I raised my hand. At the same time, Meng Ruadong next to him suddenly came forward, aimed at Xiaosong's collapsed neckline, and threw something directly into it. Then, I heard the sound of worm wings vibrating from her clothes. "Ah!" Xiao was so scared that she lost her face. She screamed, and began to shake her clothes. While shaking, she screamed for Chen Runzhu to help her catch the bugs. And Meng Ruadong grabbed my hand, and pulled me downstairs without saying a word. "Li Yingxiao is the eldest lady of Li's group. You mess with the wrong person this time." She whistled and looked gloating. I rolled my eyes. "Didn't you lose the bug? By the way, when did you catch it?" "I didn't see any bugs when I got to the dormitory. Judging from the sound, the insect is estimated to be as big as a thumb. It's just a toy. I have a bad temper. I think that if a roommate dares to mess with me, I will use this to give some color." I squeaked twice and looked at her sneer, thinking about whether to buy a similar one. Meng Ruadong, like me, came out of the countryside. She heard that her sister was still a murderer. The counselor was afraid that she hated the rich, so he specially arranged for 3 rural households to live with her. After receiving the express, on the way back to the dormitory, I received a message from the counselor asking the whole class to gather at Building 9. It just so happened that we didn't buy anything big. As soon as we unpacked the box and stuffed it into the bag, we turned around and went to Building 9. When he arrived at the classroom, Chen Runzhu had already arrived and occupied a good seat. The row next to him was full of things. I deliberately stayed away from her, and pulled Meng Ruadong to the farthest position away from her. As soon as she saw me, she got up and came over. "Fang Yuyan, I just asked you to help me carry a suitcase. You need to scare Xiao like that. Do you know that she is most afraid of insects? Her familiar rhetoric suddenly reminded me of the unbearable time in high school. At that time, I was fat and had low self-esteem. She was the first person to take the initiative to talk to me, which made me very impressed. Once when my period was early, I asked her to borrow sanitary napkins for help. She pretended to be embarrassed. I'm sorry, Zhao Yanzi, I didn't bring it but Banhua brought it. I'll borrow it for you. I looked at her gratefully, and saw what she said next to the class flower. I came back and said excitedly. She agreed, but she was embarrassed to give it to you directly. She asked you to sneak up later, so that others would not see her. I nodded. Sure enough, when I saw Banhua get up, I took a picture from her table belly, while others were not paying attention. What are you doing? Unexpectedly, Banhua just went to throw away the garbage. She turned around and grabbed my hand. When she saw the things in my hand, her face immediately changed. Her voice was not small, and someone nearby had already looked over and laughed unkindly. Banhua was at a loss because of the embarrassment. She grabbed the table, and pushed me down on the seat next to her. What? Being called by Xiao Yinzi by others all day? I really thought I was a eunuch. You don't even prepare this kind of thing. And you steal other people's things. Shameless. Sorry. I quickly stood up from my seat, and quickly sorted out the broken table despite the severe pain in my abdomen. There is blood on her back. It's disgusting. I don't know who called out, so I didn't have the courage to stay in the classroom anymore. I ran out with red eyes. After that, Chen Runzhu blamed me, saying that I must have moved too much, which scared the class flower. So he made a fuss. I remember she patted me on the shoulder and said with a smile, "But it doesn't matter. You sound like a man and look as strong as a man. You certainly don't have the little thoughts of a girl. You forget it after 2 meals. But I'm not. On the contrary, I deliberately pinched my throat and was careful in everything. It was because I was a very sensitive girl. I was afraid of causing trouble to others that I indulged Chen Runzhu's nickname for me, and forgave me for everything she did to me. But only thought it was my fault. However, Chen Runzhu, people can change. It's just a suitcase. Why do you want me to take it? Are you both disabled?" I spread the notebook on the table, put the pen aside, leaned on the back of the chair and looked up at her. Chen Runzhu was squinting with me for the second time. His eyes widened, and his beautiful facial features were completely deformed. "Why are you talking to me like that? I'm just persuading you." Bang! Meng Ruodong next to him suddenly applauded, which shocked Chen Runzhu. Then she looked at her hand naturally, took a tissue from her bag, and wiped it carefully. This mosquito is really annoying. It's buzzing next to it. It's really like someone who misses it. It's all leaning forward. After saying that, she deliberately threw the paper ball in the direction where Chen Runzhu was, looked up and smiled at her. "I didn't say you scolding mosquitoes." Chen Runzhu was so angry that his eyes were full of tears. He opened his mouth and was about to curse back, but was interrupted by the counselor. "Everyone go back and sit down. Prepare for the election of the class committee." No matter how bold she was, she didn't dare to make trouble in front of the counselor. She could only stare at me several times. On the way back, she also hit several stools in a row, which was obviously very angry. "I will now send you some papers to vote. If you want to compete for the position of the class later, you can take the stage directly." He put the paper on the table in the first row, watched each of us get it, and then signaled that the election began. When we met for the first time, everyone was still looking at each other shyly. I had suddenly stood up and shocked Meng Ruodong next to me. "Very good. Come on. Applause everyone." The counselor took the lead in applauding, and slowly, the whole class sounded sparse applause and a loud boo. "Oh, some people have unclean hands and feet in high school. How dare they be the first to take the stage now?" Li Yingxiao sat below. Although her voice was not loud, it was particularly harsh in the quiet classroom. The counselor frowned, and was about to scold. When she saw that the source of the voice was Li Yingxiao, her lips moved, and finally she only said quiet. "Hello everyone. My name is Fang Yiyan. I want to compete for the position of monitor." Li Yingxiao took the lead in making small movements below, and many people followed her to coax her. Those who could hear were fat pigs, men and women, and some people took out their mobile phones directly, and they didn't mean to listen at all. Unfortunately, I have learned vocal music. No matter how loud they are, my voice can still clearly pass through the whole classroom. When I finally finished speaking and bowed slightly to my classmates, Li Yingxiao stood up directly. "Teacher, I also want to run for monitor." She walked so fast that before I left the stage, she deliberately knocked over a row of coffee on the boys' tables, and let the hot coffee splash directly on my chest. Because of the pain, I subconsciously hid back, but felt that someone tripped under my feet and fell directly to the ground. If you can't win the competition, Now you want to seduce men with the trick of showing underwear? It's disgusting. Li Yingxiao pretended to pull me, but the words in her mouth were vicious. Her arte behavior gave me a chance. A kick stepping on her shoes. I suddenly pulled her down, pretending to be unstable, and directly knocked down the boy's table. My mobile phone. He was not prepared at all and screamed. And Li Yingxiao screamed when I stepped on him, and fell down with a muffled sound. I had stabilized my posture with my strength. I looked at Li Yingxiao, who was dressed untidy, and sneered. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't expect you to be so weak. I just saw your posture of hitting coffee, and I thought you were as strong as a cow. After saying this, I stared at the boy next to me, and left the stage with my braids. Meng Ruodong whistled below. Miss, hurry up and start the lecture. Let's hear that your father has donated tens of thousands of yuan to the school recently. Seeing that someone under the stage laughed with Meng Ruodong, the counselor scolded him for being quiet. Li Yingxiao has been spoiled since she was a child. She has never seen anyone dare to bully her like this. She was so angry that she didn't speak well, and looked at me with murderous eyes all the way. Then many people took the stage, but no one competed for the monitor. When we finally wrote our names on the ballot paper, the teacher knocked on the boy's desk. Come on, you take the ticket. I noticed that when she said this, she took a special look at Li Yingxiao. As a result, as I imagined, almost all the tickets in the class were on Li Yingxiao. The funny thing is that the quality of the paper was so poor that I saw several tickets with my name written on them. But they were pronounced as Li Yingxiao by him. The results came out. Li Yingxiao is the monitor, Chen Runzhu is the study committee member, and there are others. I won't read them one by one. Everyone can read them on the blackboard. After talking about the class committee, the counselor told a few more words about discipline, especially emphasizing that a class should be united. When she finished speaking and said the moment of breaking up, Meng Ruodong and I stood up scrambled, and rushed out of the door regardless of Li Yingxiao's broken voice in our ears. The teacher said it was okay. After class, the ghost continued to talk to you. I have experience. You've been beaten a lot, haven't you? Meng Ruodong smiled presumptuously next to me, and I gave her a similar smile. I've been bullied for half a year. Then you are much worse than me. I've been beaten for more than 10 years. She turned out the suffering as a joke and viciously laughed at herself in the past. Seeing that it was far away from the building, I pulled her to stop and said that I was going to the milk tea shop next door to buy a drink. I bought 2 cups of shake milkshake. She said she had never drunk it, so I grabbed the 2 cups and shook them together. Although at the beginning with Li Yingxiao had a conflict, but fortunately, the floor of our dormitory is different, so she didn't have a chance to teach me a lesson blatantly. But obviously, she was not ready to let me go. The ball that was deliberately hit on the head in PE class, the water splashed on the body from time to time, and the homework was maliciously damaged. She won't do it herself. Naturally, someone will take care of me for her. When I found that the takeaway had been stolen again, I went to the doorman to watch the surveillance. It was the boy sitting in the first row last time. He took my takeaway, and looked at it carefully for a long time, and then took it without looking back. Chen Runzhu knew my mobile phone, and probably told him to steal my takeaway. After recording the part of stealing takeaway with my mobile phone, I uploaded it directly to the confession wall without typing any code. Unexpectedly, this confession wall became popular. Many people were angry below, and said that they had also lost the takeaway, and scolded the boy for whether he took it. Later, his roommate in the dormitory came out and broke the news that he was always taking girls back to the dormitory, which seriously affected other people's rest. It was so big that Chen Runzhu knocked on my door in person. 3. As soon as he opened the door, Chen Runzhu shouted, Viao Yanzi, Mr. Chen's family conditions are very poor. You come from the countryside like him. Don't you have any sympathy? To be honest, if she hadn't deliberately looked for trouble on the first day, I really wouldn't want to have any more contact with her. Seeing me scratching my head distressedly, she continued to shout at me. If you can't afford to eat, who would want to steal takeaways? It's a little thing. Why do you have to go to the confession wall? You are as fat as a pig. You should have lost weight. She said it so smoothly, that she was so self-righteous that she took it as a joke. But I never think it's funny. Grabbing the foot wash basin in my roommate's hand that was about to pour water, I dug Chen Runzhu's scalp with my hand and pulled her hair. In the gap when she was about to continue to scold, I directly pressed her into the foot wash. When she was pulled out of the water, her delicate makeup was all over, and her false eyelashes fell on her mouth. Cough. Yeah. I don't know how much she drank. As soon as I let go of her hand, I saw Chen Runzhu desperately trying to spit out all the water. After nosing for a long time, she looked up and glared at me angrily. Dead fat pig. You're crazy. It's just a little foot wash. Why are you so fierce? I'm so hungry that I'm about to faint. It's normal to be irritable, right? I deliberately learned her usual tone. And she was so angry that she stretched out her hand to pull my hair. Stinky bitch. It's amazing to go to college. Forget how I treated you as a dog in high school. I'm going to kill you today. I grabbed her hand and dragged her directly to my desk. While taking the art knife, I deliberately took out several boxes of psychotic medicine and then pressed her head on the table. Chen Runzhu, you won't forget that I dropped out of high school due to illness, will you? Go back and tell Li Yingxiao that if she dares to mess with me again, I may go to your dormitory one night and cut off all your heads. Chen Runzhu panicked when he saw the medicine. Hearing my words, he was so scared that he trembled. He dared to save his life and said he would call the police. The moment I let go, he stumbled and rushed out. Is that medicine fake? After returning the foot sink to my roommate, Meng Ruodong came to me and said, the leftovers I ate before are much better now, so I haven't eaten much. It was originally just in case, but I didn't expect it to be really useful. I put away all the art knives and medicine, turned to Meng Ruodong and said, they should stop for a while, so that you don't have to be unlucky with me. She snorted and said I'm afraid of her? Just like what I thought, this warning completely scared Chen Runzhu, and even Li Yingxiao stayed away from me. Obviously, he was not willing to be like me, a madman. That's good. The past is over, and people always have to learn to look forward, because my grades have always been at the top of the list in all majors. The seniors I know encouraged me to participate in the National Innovation Competition. After having a general goal, I contacted the tutor and began to prepare the project at hand. The end of the class and the project are going on at the same time. Because of the great pressure, Meng Ruodong complained in my ear every day, saying that she should not have agreed to do this with me in the first place. Fortunately, after staying up for about a few months, the project was highly praised by the tutor. As the declaration date was getting closer and closer, he called me to the office. Chen Runzhu was also called over together. I looked at her vigilantly. The tutor pulled away the chair, motioned me to sit down, and thoughtfully took the cup and poured a cup of tea for me. Fang Yiyan, this project has been completed very well, and the teacher also knows that you have been careful. Seeing that I was holding a paper cup and didn't mean to drink tea, he cleared his throat. But winning the prize is not just about the project itself. As long as you replace the other two girls with Chen Runzhu and Li Yingxiao, I guarantee that you can win the first place. No wonder the tutor took the initiative to contact me as soon as he heard that I was going to participate in the competition. It turned out that he was waiting for me here? I don't agree. Meng Ruodong and Linlin have been doing this with me for a whole month. I can't open this. The tutor was not angry at all. He opened the drawer and took out a paper bag from it and put it in front of me. Chen Runzhu and Li Yingxiao can also do the little thing they did. The teacher knows that you are the main planner. In addition, you and Xiao Xiao had a little misunderstanding before, but she was really good. As long as you agree to this, I want her to apologize to you in person, and the things on the table are also her apology. He was afraid that I would not look at it, so he specially opened the mouth of the bag a little, including nearly tens of thousands. I pushed the paper bag back. I won't agree. I'll just say it didn't happen today. Don't embarrass me. Chen Runzhu saw that the tutor's face was not very good, and quickly persuaded me in a soft voice. Xiaoyan, Yingyan, Xiao Xiao has already made a deal with you. Why don't you agree? This money saves your tuition for several semesters. It's just for us to name it. Meng Ruodong has a murderer in her family. If you put the name of such a person together, they will definitely not let you win the prize. She was sincere and sincerely advised me, but I just pushed the stool, stood up and nodded slightly to the tutor. It's hard for the tutor to take care of it for me. Good. The tutor slapped the table, pulled the paper bag back directly, and slammed it hard into the drawer. Then don't participate. This is my tutoring project. I'll seal it if I say it. If you don't let Li Yingxiao participate, these months will be invalidated. I looked at the anger and joy on his face and smiled slightly. Okay, it's better not to let me catch a similar project in Dachuang. I have the process at hand, and then I will be plagiarized one by one. And sealing students' projects for no reason, and maliciously delaying students' declaration. Your tutor's name must be protected. I got up and walked out, and heard an angry roar behind me. You, a redneck from the countryside, are you really self-aware? You can sue. It depends on whether you drop out of school, or I don't have a job. I ignored him, walked out of the office and closed the door. When I returned to the dormitory, Meng Ruodong asked me what the result of the declaration was, and I told her the truth. She was stunned and saw that I had squeezed the documents on the table and deformed them. She said helplessly, "You're stupid. You still don't agree at this time. It's tens of thousands of yuan. At that time, you can invite us to have a few meals casually. Who will miss these months? In the end, there was a crying tone in her words, and then she kicked the cabinet hard. Shit. Why? We stayed up all night, and it was hard to stay up until the end. Why did this happen? I looked up at the lamp, and tried to throw the tutor's words out of my mind. I need this National Innovation Award. Only when I get this point can I make up for the gap in class credits, and get a scholarship. It was like this last time, and it's still like this time. The stool squeaked. Meng Ruodong wiped her tears with her sleeve, and walked to the door with the key. You pighead. I'll talk to the tutor. Say that you agreed to work in a group with them, and let us go. I wanted to stop her, but as soon as she opened the door, she was kicked to the ground. 3 boys were surrounded by the door, led by the school bully who bullied me at the beginning. You are the only one who bullied my girlfriend, right? No wonder Chen Runzhu met Li Yingxiao at the beginning of the school year. She turned out to be the girlfriend of the school bully. Right. It's them who splashed water on me and threw insects on me. Li Yingxiao stood behind the 3 boys, wearing a beautiful skirt. Her eyes were red, and her face was pitiful, but her smile was particularly bright. The school bully looked at me, and gave a sigh next to Meng Ruodong, who was covering her abdomen on the ground. Isn't this a fat pig? You haven't been beaten enough yet, and now you dare to bully Xiaoxiao's head. The instinctive fear of my body made me take a step back, and my hand quietly touched the art knife on the table. The school bully obviously saw my little movement, and hammered the iron stick in his hand to the door. Think about it clearly. If you really dare to do it, I won't keep the bone of that hand for you. A basin was thrown on the face of the school bully, which scared him. Try to scold her again, you dwarf. Meng Ruodong's face turned pale in pain, but she still stood up with difficulty, and smiled at the school bully. The school bully's face turned black, swung the stick ball, did not retract any force, and smashed it on her head fiercely. I didn't have time to ask her to dodge, so I had to rush over, hit the school bully with my body, and let the stick fall on me. The pain in my arms and back made me bite my lower lip. Fortunately, Meng Ruodong was not injured at all, and stayed away from him in time. It was the same in high school, but no one helped me, and no one would throw away the basin for me. I could only huddle in the corner, and say I was wrong again and again. Our 2 girls retreated to the balcony. He was too strong. Even if he really took a knife, with his experience of hitting people, he could make me no longer raise my hand. Swear one more word. He took a pen from the table. I have to pierce your tongue today. At this moment a scream came from the door. Li Yingxiao was grabbed by someone, and then a group of men in black came in. Before the school bully could react, they were directly pressed to the ground. Yan, are you all right? The man who followed me at the end bypassed the school bully and others, gently held my arm, and helped me up. The man beside him helped Meng Ruodong up at the same time. The moment the warm feeling slipped on my skin, I pretended to be strong, but suddenly became full of grievances. Brother. This brother's voice not only made the school bully on the ground wide-eyed, but also made Meng Ruodong next to him scream. Is he your brother? Your brother is Yi Ziang, the eldest son of Ye's group? She took a deep breath, and looked at me with a little more resentment. Then why do you put up with Li Yingxiao? With the strength of your family, it's no problem to expel her from school. If I had known that her background was so strong, I should have lost 2 more basins just now. Yi Ziang glanced at the school bully on the ground and smiled at Meng Ruodong. You can lose it if you want now. Meng Ruodong pointed to her abdomen, and finally shook her head and waved her hand, saying that she really saw the wrong person. I threw myself into Yi Ziang's arms, and kicked the school bully on the ground with my foot. Brother, he beat me so painfully, and the woman at the door bullied me with the tutor, didn't let me participate in the national creation, and sealed me for several months in the project. How gentle Yi Ziang touched me, and how vicious he looked up at Li Yingxiao. Call the tutor over. I want to see who dares to seal my sister's project. Li Xiaoying's face was pale. If it hadn't been for the man next to her arm, she would have fainted by now. The tutor was soon called over, and as soon as he came over he smiled. Mr. Yi, how dare I? It's all forced by Li Yingxiao. You know, I, a little mentor, can't afford to offend Li. Then how did I hear that you received a lot of benefits from Li, and usually helped Li Yingxiao bully other students, and even her admission qualifications were faked? After saying the last few words, the tutor couldn't laugh at all. His hands trembled for a long time, turned around, and slapped Li Yingxiao's face. It's all you. Look for trouble there all day. I told you to stop. What about you? How dare you make a fuss to the head of Lin's group? A red mark suddenly appeared on Li Yingxiao's face, and tears fell down. I don't know, I really don't know. It was Chen Runzhu who said it. She said that Fang Yuyan came from the countryside. It's impossible. In high school, I saw her father come to the school and say that he would not let her go to school. She usually doesn't even have a water cup. She picks up other people's leftovers to drink water. How can it be Lin's money? Before the school bully finished speaking, he was slapped cleanly by the man in black next to him, and suddenly lost the courage to speak again. Yi Xiang's eyes were more disgusted. While leading me out, his eyes slowly swept over the people present. I have collected all the evidence of your beating, falsification of academic qualifications, and corruption and bribery. But this does not mean that I will not use lynching. If anyone dares to talk about Yin Yan, I will give you back 10 times how you bullied her at the beginning. Then he and the man beside him helped me and Meng Ruodong to take me downstairs and asked the driver to take us to the hospital. He wanted to stay and continue to deal with the affairs here. That's awesome. Miss Yi. Meng Ruodong was beside her. I poked her stomach with my finger, and then she screamed and surrendered. When she calmed down, I said, "Otherwise, what do you think? If I don't have any background, I still dare to do it with Li Yingxiao." She tilted her head puzzledly and continued to ask curiously, "But Chen Runzhu and Li Yingxiao's boyfriend are definitely your high school alumni. They are not lies, and when the counselor told me at the beginning, he also said that you were a rural household registration. Why did he suddenly become Yes Qianjin?" I tidied up my clothes and said, "My original family is indeed in the countryside, but since junior high school, Yes Group has begun to subsidize me to study. Originally, they only supported me and usually chatted with me on my mobile phone. Later, once in high school, my father went to school to arrest me, didn't let me continue to study, and forced me to drop out of school. At that time, I was at my worst depressed, and I didn't know that the person who funded me was such a powerful identity. I sent them a suicide note and planned to jump upstairs. As a result, Yi Xiang saw the suicide note. That afternoon, I pushed all the meetings and came to my school. Because I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, they hurriedly expelled me for depression and asked me to go to another high school to continue my studies. If it weren't for Yi Xiang, I would probably have died on the day I wrote my suicide note. 5. They gave me the best educational environment. In order to cure my mental illness, they guaranteed that all my education was based on encouragement. He took me to many occasions, exercised my courage, let me try to break through my knots, and taught me to resist the bullying of others. Even though they are so careful, those inferiority is still rooted in my heart. As long as I come into contact with similar things, I can't help but be afraid. Yin Yan, you can do whatever you want. We can help you. Yi Xiang's words became my brave capital. So this time, when Chen Runzhu thought he wanted to continue to bully me, I resisted unceremoniously. That's great. If only I had such a person to help me. Meng Ruodong changed her posture and looked out of the window. Unfortunately, I'm still the parent who can only abuse domestically. I complained to them 2 days ago that I was bullied. Do you know what they said? They said why it was me again. It was strange that they scolded me for being a street walker all day and was not bullied. I patted her leg gently and said seriously, "Don't worry, you have good eyesight. You didn't throw toys at me on the first day. Now if something happens to you, I'll help you." She turned her head and didn't pretend to be a fierce bad girl for the first time. She tried to hold back her tears and hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Yin Yan. It doesn't matter. I'll hold her in my arms. You should have been saved." Both of us were injured clearly, because the fractured bone had to rest for a long time. During that period, my brother came to see me several times. To my surprise, the counselor also came to see us once. She held the fruit basket in her hand and looked at me with some guilt. "I'm sorry. I actually knew you were wrong before, but my job was very important. I couldn't help you because you were put on by Li's little shoes." Seeing that neither of us said anything, she quickly added, "However, since your brother came to school to make trouble, Li Yingxiao's academic fraud has been exposed. She and her boyfriend have deliberately caused harm for many years. These things have been appealed, and the court will have a result soon. Not to mention going to school, they will definitely go to jail. Your project teacher also helped to contact the best tutor of the school. He is very willing to help you, so that you don't forget to declare. After adding his contact information, he will help you improve the project." She took out her mobile phone and told me the tutor's contact information. After watching the operation, she continued, "As for the monitor, the teacher specially reorganized the voting in the class, and everyone wants you to take charge of it." Meng Ruodong smiled beside her, and I replied helplessly, "I got it. Thank you, counselor." When she left, Meng Ruodong said lazily, "It's ridiculous. When we used to have a rural household registration, we didn't see how fast they were doing things. How long has it been since the identity of Lin's Qianjin was announced? All arrangements have been arranged in a few days. There is no way." In this era where interests are paramount, only the strong can survive. If you have time to sigh here, you'd better think about what to do with the class we are missing. Don't finish the class at that time, because you have to redo the homework if you can't finish it. Meng Ruodong quickly took out her mobile phone and asked her roommate about the course. She found that she really began to prepare for the final homework and screamed that by the time we returned to school, it was already 2 months later. It was also at this time that Meng Ruodong received the first text message from her family. Xiaotong, after returning to school, come to the back door of your school. Knowing that my class time is tight, you want me to go there. Although Meng Ruodong was a little impatient, she still took me to go with her. A new building has been built there recently, and there are rubble and demolished walls everywhere. All the way my feet hurt. On the stairs with only half of the left, a woman with tattoos on her arms sat there, with a cigarette in her mouth, followed by 2 muscular women of about 1.8 meters. In front of the 3 people was Chen Runzhu, who was splashed with paint and his clothes were all wet and stinky. Except for the bitch of the Li family, is she the one who bullies you? The woman grabbed Chen Runzhu's face with her hand, so strong that she wanted to scratch her face. Do you know what it's like to be in prison when you follow others to bully people? Do you know how painful it is when the stick hits the body? Chen Runzhu trembled, and was directly slapped twice by the woman. Speak. No. I don't know. Her face was covered with tears and snot, and her whole body was shaking. Meng Ruodong was a little cramped next to her, and it took a long time to open her mouth. For me it's sister. Sister Meng just glanced at Meng Ruodong, and she immediately didn't dare to speak. Then Sister Meng continued to look at Chen Runzhu. Let me tell you, I stabbed a man to death before I was 18 years old, and I have been rotten in my life. If I see you bully 1 or 2 again, I don't mind going to prison for a few years. At most, it's just the death penalty. I don't want to live long ago. Previously, I heard Meng Ruodong mention her sister's murder. It seemed that she was raped by a man. She vowed not to obey. Before she died, she grabbed the bricks and smashed her to death. Chen Runzhu nodded like pounding garlic. Only then did Sister Meng let her go, and took another sip of the cigarette. When you are so big, you still need outsiders to help you teach the most basic things. What's the use of just nodding? Open your mouth and apologize. Chen Runzhu immediately looked at me and Meng Ruodong and cried to me. I'm sorry. I will never do this kind of thing again. Leave me alone. Sister Meng saw that the 2 of us were scared and waved her hand. You 2 go back quickly and study hard, Xiaotong. Ask your sister for the money. Don't worry about your parents. If they still dare to come to school to annoy you, you can call me directly. At worst, I will stab them to death and ask you to inherit the family property. Meng Ruodong quickly shook her head at Sister Meng. No, sister, Yan Yan is Yi Xiang's sister. It's awesome. No one will bully me again. Sister Meng looked at me and suddenly became a little gentle, and she said seriously, Xiaotong's family environment is not good. Please take care of it. After saying this, she turned her head to look at the 2 girls next to her and pointed to Chen Runzhu. Take off her clothes and take a careful picture of her whole body for me. All kinds of postures are required. After that, if you are not honest, these photos will be sent to someone you know. Before bullying others, you'd better weigh them. Seeing that the 2 girls were about to do it, Chen Runzhu screamed, came over and took my hand and begged. Yan Yan, I beg you, help me, I don't want it. In this way my innocence will be ruined. They can't do this. Looking at her miserable appearance, I couldn't help laughing and waved my hand to break free from her. Why don't you just take 2 photos? They also took them because you look good. Why do you have to cry? Come on, cooperate with several sisters and smile happily. Ignoring the more sad cry behind us, Meng Ruodong and I left the back door without looking back. If it doesn't hurt you, you will never know the pain. At the beginning, don't expect someone to come to help you when you are injured.